I haven't been to the toilet in 4 days and it was starting to worry me, so I went to the doctor's. I arrived and the doctor felt my stomach and said it was very hard. He wanted me to take a stool sample, which means you have to shit in the cup. I had coffee for breakfast, so I was pretty much ready to go. I grabbed the cup and went to the toilet and held it up to my ass and started pushing. I didn't realize how badly coffee affected me, and the next thing you know, a strong gust of diarrhea started blasting out of my ass and I felt like a rocket ready for takeoff. I grabbed onto the door for balance because I started levitating and the cup was already full, but I couldn't stop. I was holding onto the door for dear life and the shit was spitting out like a shotgun. I eventually stopped and looked at the glass cup of my shit and there were cracks all over the glass. I heard the desk lady shouting for everyone to get under the chair and to call the police. I got scared thinking what is going on outside, so I quickly cleaned myself up and rushed out of the bathroom to see everyone crying and hiding under the chairs because they thought there was an active shooter in the building. I said it was just my shit and everyone got up. Anyways, I have bowel cancer. Guys, so today I'm gonna be sharing with you a story time. So one time I stayed overnight at my grandparents' house, and in the mornings every time I stayed over we always used to go to synagogue. If you don't know what synagogue is, it's a Jewish church. So there was one morning where we went to synagogue and we were in the middle of the service when I realized that I really had to poop. Just know that at this time I was like 6. So the guy was saying a prayers or whatever, and at this point I just had to tell my grandpa because it was getting too much and I couldn't go to the bathroom on my own. It was just some sort of rule that they had, like the little kids can't go anywhere alone. So anyway, I had to tell him because I just couldn't hold it in anymore, and in the middle of me telling him I let out this huge fart, and I mean it was so big everyone heard it, and it was so quiet because of the guy was saying the prayers and he was talking low. I tell you that I tried to cover it up by screaming and everyone looked at me. I was so embarrassed. Like for more story times. Bye.
One time when I was 5 or 6, a teacher found a pair of shitty underwear in the bathroom and all the teachers had to line up their students to find out which kid needed to be sent home. My teacher literally went round the class putting her hand into our pants to make sure we had underwear on. I'm still pretty traumatized from feeling her crusty dusty old woman hand in between my ass cheeks. Anyway, it got to the last kid in my class and my teacher put her hand in his ass, and when she pulled her arm out it was covered in shit. The kid was crying, so was the teacher. One student threw up and I caused a chain reaction and everyone was throwing. It was so gross. The vomit smell was there for weeks.
Hey y'all, this is another story of one of my followers. One time when I was in first grade, me and the rest of my class had just came back from recess and we were standing outside of our classroom waiting to go inside, and while we were waiting I looked across the hallway and some kid and his friend were standing there, and I looked at him for a minute and he literally pooped all over the floor and he stanked up the whole hallway and he literally didn't care and continued to do what he was doing, but then the teacher made him go to the nurse and the nurse sent him back and we had to smell shit all day. I'm about to tell a story that my friend told me. So one day she was at her other friend's house and they were playing around and her friend's brother came up to her and was like, "Beware of my sister, she is weird," and she didn't think anything of it and they continuing to playing around, and then she sat on the couch and it was one of those couches where it can recline back, and she was like, "Where's the lever to recline the chair back?" And her friend said, "It's in the crack of the couch, you have to reach your hand in there and pull it out," and when she reached it in there she pulled the lever, and when she took her hand out there was shit all over her fingers and in her fingernails, and she asked her friend, "What the fuck is that?" Is her friend said, "Probably Nutella," but then she sniffed her hand and it smelled like shit and she was freaking out and she went to go wash her hands, and later on found out that her friend would dig in her bubba wubba funna hubba fubba jubba gubba cubba yubba nubba zumba rubba shitty litty witty kitty mitty nitty yitty ass and wipe it in between the cracks of the couch. My friend never went over there again and blocked her on everything. Hey guys, story time. When I was in kindergarten I was on the bus sitting next to this mean ass bitch, I don't remember her name. There was a girl behind us and she kept saying her stomach hurted and that she needed to poop. So me and the girl I was sitting next to, we straight ignored that bitch. So time flew by on the bus, and then I start smelling shit, like literally disgusting, smelling like dog shit ass poop. So I look under the seat and I see this big ass pile of diarrhea poop. That shit stunk. I couldn't help myself and I kept looking under the seat to look at the poop. The girl next to me kept telling me to stop looking at it. Like, "Bitch, if you don't shut yo skin tone chicken bone Google Chrome no home flip phone disowned ice cream cone garden gnome extra chromosome metronome dimidome genome full blown monochrome student loan Indiana Jones overgrown Flintstone X and Y hormone friend zone Sylvester Stallone Sierra Leone AutoZone professionally seen silver patron head ass the fuck up, I'll beat your ass." Eventually someone came on the bus and picked up the poop. So y'all remember how PE teachers used to make you run the mile in elementary school? Well boy do I have a fucking story for you. So I was out on the field running my second lap and my stomach started hurting because my fucking mom decided to buy McDonald's for breakfast. So I asked the teacher if I could go to the bathroom and that bitch-ass Trump gorilla-looking motherfucker said no, so I just kept running and prayed to Michael Jackson that it would go away. So I'm on my third lap and I have to fart. And on God I pulled a Nessa Barrett. So much shit came out that I could literally make a 4-course meal with it. And a chocolate fountain for dessert. I was about to fucking cry. Obviously I wasn't gonna tell my teacher that I shit myself, so I just said I felt like I was gonna throw up. So I go to the clinic literally holding my hands on my ass so nobody would see my shit. When I get to the clinic the nurse tells me to sit down, but in my head I'm like, bitch, if I sit down your chair is gonna look like the chocolate river from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So I just lean on the wall until my mom comes to pick me up. When I stand up off the wall to go to the bathroom my shit is smeared on the wall and the nurse looks at it and she's like, what the fuck, was that you? And I was like, ew, hell no, and I run to the bathroom and my whole ass had shit on it, and when my mom picked me up I started crying because she asked what smelled like dog shit and she thought she stepped in something and I had to tell her it was my time about something that happened to me in kindergarten. So we was at recess and I was playing with my friends and this girl named Haley was chasing me because I made fun of her nickname, which was Bling Bling the Wing Chaying. So when she was chasing me around and I climbed up this ladder and she climbed up right after me and I kicked her in the face and she fell to the floor with a bloody nose, and the teacher called us over and talked to us and she had to sit on the side for recess, and I didn't. So when I was in the bathroom she sent one of her friends to mess with me and she climbed on the stall and watched me poop, so I took my shit and threw it in her face and it got in her mouth and I didn't get in trouble and she smelled like shit. That's what her bubba wubba funna hubba fubba jubba gubba cubba yubba nubba zumba rubba shitty litty witty kitty mitty nitty yitty jitty pitty quitty ritty titty city ass gets for trying to watch me poop.
When I was younger I was in Walmart and I was eating a tube of Pringles and I ate them while my mom paid, but I forgot to let the guy scan them, so I walked out the Walmart and the alarm went off and I just started running because I got scared and my mom couldn't find me because I was hiding behind the newspaper things, and the Walmart people called the police because I was missing, and when I hear them show up I thought I was a criminal, so I left my mom a note on the newspaper that said I went to Mexico to start a new life and not come looking for me, and then I took off running with my Pringles and ran for like an hour, and then the cops saw me walking down the road so they pulled over, so I started running again, and then they were using the car intercom thing and they told me to stop running. So when I did I thought they were gonna put me in handcuffs and take me to jail, so I was crying and I slapped the officer in the stomach and tried to run again, but he just held me back, and when he asked me what happened to me and I told him, he started crying because he was laughing so hard. And he just gave my mom $2 for the Pringles and he was still laughing when he left. And that's the time I was a wanted criminal.
Great, I was super horny so I made myself a Tinder account. I matched with this smoking hot guy which looked around 20 years old. We started talking and decided to meet up. The day came and I got dressed looking like a whole baddie and went to the Taco Bell where we were going to meet up. An hour goes by and I couldn't find him anywhere. I got a text from him saying he had a job interview and I was kinda upset but just let it slide. The next day I had to go to school and we had an assembly because there was a new teacher at our school. As they revealed the new bitch, my jaw dropped to the floor because that was the guy from Tinder. We made eye contact and his haughty looking ass winked at me. We kissed at lunch but I went outside to play with my friend to not look sus. A girl from my class came up to us and said to my friend, "Ew, why are you black?" Like, bitch what? I started throwing hands and the teacher cheered me on from the side. I drop kicked her and she broke her arm and fractured her foot. I never got in trouble because the Mr. Hottie didn't snitch on me. Anyways, we are secretly dating face with heart. This is a story time of one of my followers. So this one time when I was getting ready to go to Six Flags with my family, my mom had $50 and I wanted some money like the greedy bitch I am, and I stole it. So then my mom was looking for it, so I had to hide it, but my bubba wubba funna hubba fubba jubba gubba cubba yubba nubba zumba rubba shitty litty witty kitty mitty nitty yitty jitty pitty quitty ritty titty city sister found it in my room and my mom beat my ass, and when everyone got there I was sitting in a chair in the middle of the living room, but that was low-key funny as fuck. Bitches, this is a story time and this story is something that happened to me. So one time I was at my friend's house and we was doing our thing, just being us, and we were having fun, and she had a big brother and he was kinda creepy and weird and he was obsessed with Pokemon and had a Pikachu stuffed animal, but anyways that was really weird and I just had weird vibes around him, and one day me and my friend were doing stuff and I used to go over her house every day, but anyways we were making crafts and we needed scissors and she said they were in her brother's room, and when I went to go get them I opened the door and I saw her brother in there humping his crusty dusty musty lusty fusty gusty usty tusty rusty wusty justy custy nusty busty Pikachu stuffed animal, and he was slightly moaning and he looked at me and threw the Pikachu, and when we're just awkwardly staring at each other and I told my friend what happened and she didn't believe me. I'm never going in his room ever again. Story time. So when I was in 8th grade a girl walked up to me and said I was cute. 8 minutes later she came back up to me and asked if I wanted to go to her house. I said sure. Then she told me she had a boyfriend, and me being the little shit that I am, I said I didn't care. We started making out in her room and her boyfriend came over. He knocked on the door and said her name. I quickly put my shirt on and started acting gay. Right when he walked in I faced the girl and started fake crying. I said, "My boyfriend broke up with me yesterday." The girl's boyfriend came up to me and said, "It's okay bro," then he hugged me. Long story short, I actually turned gay and started dating her boyfriend. One day my mom told me and my siblings that she had saved up enough money to buy her dream car. We were like, yes queen period. Anyways, after she picked up her new whip she took us and we got some yummy McDonald's. My phone was on Bluetooth and we were blasting music and having a full-on karaoke session and all that fun shit, but of course I had to fucking spill my Coke, but my mom said it's no big deal, but I expected a whooping. The next day while she was cleaning her car we had to go outside because we had a cleaner. I was learning the new WAP dance and didn't realize my phone was still on Bluetooth. Were laughing like, bitch fucking shut up. My mom asked what WAP means and I had to go with the classic, and told her it meant waffles and pancakes smirking face. The next day she went shopping with my stepdad. Me and my siblings woke up with waffles and pancakes and had a note that said, had to go to the shops, hope y'all enjoy the WAP. We were all laughing until we saw her in and this is another story time. So my friend called me bawling and said that her grandma is dying in the hospital and I was being a supportive friend and I went to the hospital with her to see her grandmother, and when I walked in she was laying down on the bed and my friend went to go hug her and then was crying, and then when I went over there I was like, hi grandma, how are you feeling? And she said, I'm not feeling too well sweetie, and she said, give me a kiss, and you bent down and I looked at her lips and they were dry and crusty and she kissed me and her lips scratched my hubba dubba wubba mubba gubba lubba tubba hubba yubba rubba jubba bubba cubba jubba zubba licky ricky thicky nicky wicky dicky frick sicky face, and it started bleeding and then I was cleaning myself up and all I hear is a boom and the whole hospital started shaking and she was shitting everywhere and she flooded the room and I ran out and turns out she had butthole cancer. Hey, this literally happened last week. I was just in my class meeting and my teacher said to do the classwork individually. I had a question and they answered and I was like, okay cool, and then did it. I finished it, was still had leftover time to just go on my phone, so I started to watch anime because I love anime, hehe. Anyways, I was watching it and here is the thing. I talk out loud and say my emotions while watching anime, so I was watching and the love interests were getting upset with each other and then a girl who liked the guy was confessing to him and I was getting triggered. I was like, oh my god, he doesn't love you back up dude, he loves someone else clearly. And I was screaming cause the girl wasn't taking the hint and I continued yelling a little more and then sighed. All of a sudden, my teacher said, whoa, I want to know how this ends, did she take the hint? And man, my face went so fucking red. I was at a loss for words and saw I wasn't on mute. I muted myself and wanted to fucking die because of the amount of embarrassment I felt. I still am embarrassed and don't want to encounter my teacher in class again tomorrow. One day my great-grandma was dying because she had heart disease, brain tumors, toe fungus, leprosy, diabetes, bowel cancer, stretched earlobes, nipple piercing infection, black lungs, cornea infection, coronavirus, the black plague, the Spanish influenza, frostbite, nematodes, trypophobia, Ebola, saggy skin, morning breath, like cis, you name it. She was old and diseased as shit. The doctor said she had like 3 days left, so my mom started taking photos with my great-grandma on the bed and she was uploading them to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, WhatsApp, Tinder, Tumblr, Wattpad, like this bitch was really posting my great-grandma everywhere like she was a superstar. Like, relax yourself, you have 4 followers including me and my brother, you don't need to post them on all these platforms. Anyway, she asked me for a caption idea and I said doo-wop, and she then asked what is that? I said it means wishing and praying and she said that's so beautiful and she started crying like, okay bitch, it's not the end of the world, sit the fuck down with your hubba dubba bubba gubba yubba tubba flubba wubba jubba pubba zubba head ass. She made her caption wop for granny, show granny some wop, she's in need for wop, go granny wop, granny wop. Like, you stupid bitch, no wonder you have 4 followers, make it 3 because I just unfollowed. Anyways, my great grandma died that evening. Growing up, my bedroom was the only one that faced the front of the house. When I was about 8 or 9, I woke up to my dad calmly but firmly telling me to get up, go in the bathroom, and shut the door. I was annoyed because I was half asleep, but I listened. Apparently I was more tired than I realized, because I fell asleep on the bathroom floor. The next morning I asked my mom what happened. She seemed oblivious and confused. I looked at my dad like she was crazy, and I asked him why he had woken me up. He denied doing it. I was becoming frustrated to the point of tears, but I ultimately let it go. Fast forward to college. I was home one break, and I decided to ask again. I had thought of that night off and on for years, and it still bothered me. This time, my dad goes, "Ha, I was wondering if you even remembered that." Turns out that a lot of that night off and on for years, and it still bothered me. This time, my dad goes, "Ha, I was wondering if you even remembered that." Turns out that a lot of houses on our block were being vandalized and robbed all those years ago. Someone had broken into the garage and was inside the house. My room was partially over the garage. My dad heard it happen and quietly got me to safety. Police were called. The guy ran. He was never caught, however, and my parents didn't want a terrified kid on their hands. So for years they pretended like nothing had ever happened. It wasn't supernatural, but it was unsettling for sure.
One day, we were in class. I was in band at the time, and the classroom phone rang, and the teacher went and he answered the phone. He got really serious, he got this really concerned shocked look on his face, and he hung it up and he turned to us and he said, "Everybody sit down, be quiet. The bell's going to ring in a couple minutes. You're going to stay seated." And then he went over to the doors and he locked them. And we were just like, oh shit, what is happening? And at first some of us were like, well, is it a bomb threat? Because we used to get bomb threats all the time, but then we realized that doesn't make sense because when we get a bomb threat, they evacuate us. And then we're like, is there some type of killer in the school? Is there a weather alert? Is there a terrorist attack? And none of us knew anything. The teacher wouldn't answer any questions. He was told not to. And the bell rang. We all stayed seated and we sat there for a really, really long time. And then the next bell rang, which means a whole other class period had passed. And still he said, stay seated. And I can't tell you how long we were trapped in this room and nobody was telling us what was going on. We're all getting really scared and panicking.
Because we had never had a situation like this and we had practiced so many drills, so many, if there's a bomb, we all go to the band lot. If there's a tornado, we all go to the basement. If there's a fire, we take these exits on this side. We always had a plan, and this was just something that we had never planned and nobody was telling us anything. So eventually they're texting their parents and calling their parents and they're saying, do you know anything about this? And the parents are all freaking out and now it's like an ordeal. Some of the parents started listening to the police scanners and it was getting back to us that there were ambulances outside of our school and we're just like, and at this point, a lot of us are panicking because we think there's some type of shooter or something because that makes sense. Like, okay, the doors are locked. They're telling us to be quiet. They're telling us not to move. They're telling us not to leave. There's ambulances outside. And finally, they just open the doors and let us go. And they wouldn't tell us anything still. So we're just like, okay, we just sat in this classroom for like hours. There's ambulances outside of our school and you're just gonna room for like hours. There's ambulances outside of our school and you're just gonna let us go to our next class? So you can probably tell by the title of this video what happened. A girl died in class during school hours. And here's the story on that. So earlier in that day, around like first, second period, somebody sold her a bunch of Oxycontins. She, during school, took all of them. She ended up going to her 7th period class at 3rd period and she walked in and the teacher was like, honey, what are you doing here? And she said, oh, I'm here for class. And the teacher was like, you're not here until later, honey. It's only 3rd period. And I wasn't here for this, but supposedly when she walked away, she said to somebody else, oh, she's on something or she's drunk or something. But it was obvious that she was on something. So she went a couple classes later and she put her head down on the desk. She was sleeping and she was just kind of one of those students who, you know, showed up late and slept in class. Obviously didn't show a ton of interest. Amazing teacher. He was a caring teacher, but he didn't wake her up. For I don't know what reason it was. I don't know if he just thought, you know, you can only try so hard to make somebody interested in class. I don't know if he figured, you know what, she could really use the sleep, just let her nap. But that class was over and the bell rang and everybody got up, but she stayed seated laying on her desk like this with her head down and she wasn't getting up. So somebody who was sitting next to her nudged her and was like, hey, wake up, class is over. And she didn't move and then she nudged her a little harder to wake her up and that is when her arm fell completely limp to the side of the desk. So obviously at this point people start panicking. They roll her over and she is completely blue. I don't know how long she was out. I don't know how long she wasn't breathing, but she had completely OD'd and had not been receiving oxygen for enough time to turn her blue. That is when the ambulances were called. That is when the school was put on lockdown. She was taken out, obviously, and she died that day.